So you both spoke about power and where power is held in organizations and in institutions. And I'm really curious about this. You also spoke about sharing the mic. Judd, I think this was yours, versus taking the mic. And how do we teach youth to do this? How do we youth workers model talking about our own power with young people? And how do we encourage the youth to claim their own power in their context too?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And the immediate thing I think of course, is language and giving our youth the language and really the space to articulate what power feels like for them, what power means to them, and how they've experienced power or a lack thereof. I think our BIPOC students, of course, the disenfranchisement that happens within our communities is so real, and within our families and within our neighborhoods. And so them really being able to express their experience of that in disenfranchisement, but also giving, because they're able to talk about it and express that, giving them that agency to take that power into their own hands and really realize how much power our young people have. Because within our pandemic, with Gen Z like being the most diverse generation of like ever, we're really seeing, especially throughout the past few years, seeing youth stand up to so many injustices within our world, within our racial realities, with our climate change, with, systemic racism, policing in our communities, and just seeing how much power they have as a community. Especially when they all band together and they walk the streets and they stand up for things that they believe in. There's so much power in that they have. But I think there's also so much to within them talking about their own experiences of power and what that means to them and how they want to change that narrative, because I think that's so important. I think when you hear power, when you're a young person, you're like, oh yeah, all these people have power, and you're like the president and like my teachers and like all that stuff. But really breaking it down to their world and their reality and how it affects them and what kind of change they want to make and how they want to use their own power within their families, within the classroom, within their youth groups. Like, yeah, so that's what I think of immediately in terms of talking about power and really being able to give our students and our youth that agency to really own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important for us and for us to tell our students that power is relational. And so it takes people upholding power for it to do what it wants to do. And it also takes people witnessing against the way that power is distributed to interrupt it. And so when it comes to students, there's so many things that are decided for them, right?
Yeah.
From where they go to school. Sometimes they even clothes that they get to wear. Like there's so many things that are decided for them that it might feel really out there to consider. How is it that you have power or agency? And so it's important for us to tease that out for them and say, in a world where it doesn't feel like you have many choices, and depending on our racial, socioeconomic, systemic realities, choice might be a myth in a lot of these realities. Where do you really have a choice? Not really. However, how we relate to power is something that the Christian tradition has a lot to say about. And so when in Acts 1:8, we get told that for you will receive power. It's a given that the power that we have received, but the power for what? And it's a power to be a witness. It's a power to show it. It's a power to show up with our presence. And so to invite young people to think of the power that has been given to you by the Holy Spirit and the relational realities of how you play into power structures in our society. How are you going to step in and be a witness? How are you going to step in and take up space and be a presence that can either say, I have the power to support the current power structures, and to just be another body that says, don't love this, but I'm just going to keep it going? Or will I be somebody who will stand on the other side and go, I'm going to choose to be a witness for interruption, to say, to ask questions, and also to give them examples as to what using power, excuse me, looks like. It can mean like asking a question that digs at, why are we doing what we're doing? There's nothing more powerful than to ask how we got here and why are we still committed to it. Those are moments to interrupt power, because they tell me what convinced you to do this and why are you so committed to doing this work. So you can enact your power by asking thoughtful questions. You can enact your power by having the kind of relationships that would interrupt the way, if the world says Ahren and I cannot be friends, the way that we relate to each other is a powerful stance to say, but we will choose to interrupt those power structures of racial difference, and we're gonna lean into a different power differential. And so in a place where they feel like they don't have much choice, it doesn't mean that you don't have power. And I'm always struck by, I watched In the Heights, and I recognize there's some layers there that we have to unpack with the film, but there's the role of the abuela in the process. And she said, our task is to have small ways to remind ourselves of our inherent dignity. We are not powerless, but we are powerful. And I think it's finding those small ways of reminding students, particularly students of color, particularly students in marginalized spaces, that they are filled with dignity, that they do have worth, because we often don't engage into a place where we don't feel like we belong or have anything to say. And so it's teaching students what power is, that power is relational, the fact that the power, particularly in the Christian tradition, is to witness, and to witness to what? And the flourishing of all creation. And so whenever they can step in and take presence by asking good questions, by stepping into friendships, by having healthy relationships, by speaking truth to power dynamics that they don't want to relate to. And how do you do that in community? Be a witness is you're a representative, right, of a body. And so when we stand up to tell truth to power, whom are you speaking with? No such thing as speaking on behalf of anybody. Everybody has their ability to share their own experience, but whom are you speaking with? And so teaching students how to discern what is it that you're going to do with the power that you have been given, even though choice may not be something you have a ton of imagination for.
Yeah, it strikes me that it connects to something you both said earlier about the power of an individual story too. That's something that each youth can bring to this process as they name and claim their own sense of story, history, identity, and being confident enough in that space. It's not one of shame, it's one of courage, and it's one of confidence to be able to present that in ways that are connectional to others. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.